I have a broken N64 here. It doesn't show anything but a black screen. There's no sound, there is no visual, but I don't have the no signal thing on my TV. And until now, I've only ever had this crappy free multimeter that I got in like a soldering iron kit, like my very first soldering iron kit. So this was like a freebie in that, and it's done me well, but it doesn't actually show any capacitance. So the only way I can tell if a capacitor is dead is if it is completely dead to see if it's shorting or not. I have tested each one of these individual capacitors. All of them are not shorting. So theoretically, they're fine. But I finally got myself a tool that will tell me the capacitance. So in today's video, I'm going to test this little guy out, see if it's something I recommend, because I did get it for pretty cheap off of AliExpress. I will have a link down below, but hold off until you watch this video entirely to see if it's actually worth your money. And I'm going to test all of these capacitors to see if they're actually good or not. The problem is to like actually test capacitance, you have to remove the capacitors from its circuit. So we are going to remove the capacitors and individually test them. I think I know which capacitor it probably is, or at least where along the lines it probably is. So it shouldn't hopefully come down to the last capacitor. But yeah, let's just get started. You might be wondering what this is all doing here. This is part of the HDMI mod that I do that I sell on my website, retroremaster.com, if you want to buy a fully working one. But I've fully modded this one after doing a deep clean on it, like I do all of my N64s. And then once it was all finished, I was testing them all, and this was the only one that didn't work. There are a lot of things I know that are not the problem. I know it turns on. I know that this cart reader is good because I can pop it out like that. And I swapped it with a different one that I knew was working, and it still didn't do anything on this board. But I tried this on a working board and it worked. So I know that the cartridge is not the issue. Now it could be like one of these pins is not being like accepted, but I doubt that very seriously that it's anything to do with this part of the board. I know that it's not the HDMI mod itself because I have fully removed this and tried just the analog. It still ain't working. I've obviously reattached it, tried both the HDMI and the analog output, nothing. And then, like I said, I have tested each of these for continuity, and none of them are shorting to ground. None of them are shorting, touching both ends of the capacitor. So my only real guess is that one of these capacitors just ain't given enough juice, but isn't shorted. So let's take that out. Let's move a lot of this stuff out of my way. And I'm going to start with these two capacitors here because I believe one of these is sound and one of those is audio. I could be wrong. I'm not an expert when it comes to N64 boards. But what I can do is look up the Console 5 wiki, and I can see that this is a CPU 5. It is NTSC, and this is not on that list. But this list right here is super blown out. But this list right here will tell me all the capacitors and their values. So this will be an easy reference here. So I'm going to start with C24 and C28 because those are actually the same. You can reference the numbers on top of the capacitors. The 33 is talking about the capacitance in microfarads, and we can see that it lines up on the screen here, 33 for C24 and 33 for C24. I'll go ahead and put flux down. I'll just do on both here because I'll probably end up removing both. It is also very possible that it could be one of these bigger ones because I believe these are for power. I could be wrong, but usually the bigger ones have to do with power. But then again, the power supply is over here. I don't know. I'm going to stop talking out of my butt. While I normally don't like using leaded solder, I'm going to use some here because we are desoldering. I'm already asthmatic, so I don't like to use stuff that is going to be bad for my lungs when I inhale it. But leaded solder has a lower melting temperature, so it's easier for desoldering, but it smells way nastier. Just adding a bit of solder to both of those points well, to all of those points since I added it to all of them. And then I will use my tweezers to push it out of the way as I heat up both sides. And I just go back and forth until maybe eventually I'm gonna bump it up to 330 because it's still not cooperating. A higher temperature will just make it so it stays melty for longer when I'm swapping sides. Maybe I need to get more flux out. There we go, finally. Okay, since we're here, I will just go ahead and remove the other one. Okay, now I'm gonna turn off my soldering iron. I'm gonna actually clean both of these up a little bit because the flux is going to be a little bit sticky. And while it is no clean flux, the flux removal will make this a little bit easier. And when it's clean, it'll actually help ensure that I'm actually touching the metal prongs to the metal points on the capacitor. And the flux isn't harming that connection. I'm going to turn it on here. And there's just an auto setting on this. It's going to be kind of hard to see because I can't adjust the brightness of the screen. I apologize, but it's on auto. So I can just, I have to zoom out a little bit here. Since it is on auto, I should be able to just touch both of these and it will tell me, oh, it's capacitance. So it'll tell me 32 microfarads. That's within spec. I know that that capacitor is good. I believe that was the one we took off of C24. And then here, once again, 32 microfarad. Okay, well, I guess we can put those back on. I was really thinking we were going to be done after that. So I will go ahead and put those back on the board. But actually, before I remove another one, I want to go over why we need to remove the capacitors to truly test their capacitance. If I go up to this capacitor here and test it, it says 68, but it's only showing 32. But when we take it off here and test it again, now that it's off the board, we can test it and it says 66, which is close enough to 68. I think it's within spec. But when it was on the board, it was half that. I don't understand why. I'm very new to this whole capacitor world. Someone wants to explain it to me in the comments. That'd be great. But I took off the one next to it so we can test it as well. And we're getting about 8.8 there. And yep, it's 10 microfarads. It's close enough to 10 and it says 10. So we know it's not those. Is it something connected to C140 that's making it not be a full 68 when it's on the board? I don't know. Maybe it's just how it goes on the circuit board. That's what I need to start learning. Because if I could test these without having to remove them, that'd be great. So I'm just going to keep doing this until I find something wrong. Okay? Okay. All right. It's the next day. I don't know where I cut in that recording, but I ended up removing every single one of these capacitors and none of them seemed to be out of spec. And then I did a little more research as to what is considered like a capacitor going bad. And people said generally 10 to 20% below what it's supposed to be rated at. And there was really only one that felt pretty far off, but I didn't even realize it until I did some more digging around on this board specifically. I also like even deeperly cleaned all of this stuff because everybody online is just like, yep, it's the cart slot. Yep, it's the cartridge. Yep, yep, yep. So I deep cleaned this again. I removed it and I like tried to get in all of these holes as best I could with cleaning, electronics cleaner, alcohol, everything. Same thing with this slot and this card and then this cartridge. And nothing. And I don't know if my TV's just bugging out. And now I've talked about this so many times and tried recording this video so many times. I don't even remember anymore. As of right now, get no signal from the TV at all. So I dug a little deeper in the board and I was just like, okay, what capacitor is going to video? I need to know. And so I did a little continuity test. I grabbed my yellow wire for the AV cable because this is where the video goes. Took one probe and then I found which one it went to. Goes to this second from the right. Now I can let go of that. And then I was like, all right, let me poke around at these capacitors until I find it's connected to here, the C16. Then I was like, oh, C16 did seem like it was a little bit more off than it should have been. So I'm going to remove C16, test it again, and then I think I'm just going to try swapping it with another capacitor that should be in spec and see if this works. This is driving me crazy, people. If this doesn't work, I'm just gonna leave the question to you guys. What am I doing wrong? Or if I am doing everything right, what is my issue? Please help me. Okay. Capacitor removed. Turn this back on. This is at 186, 185, and it's a 220. And I don't know what percentage that is. That's 84% of what it should be. I don't know, man. I'm just going to go ahead and replace it, see if that does anything. I have a giant box of capacitors here that I bought, I think from AliExpress. It could have been Amazon. I want to say I got these from Amazon. These are falling out of their binding. Really? Awesome. These binders have a bunch of the smaller resistors and capacitors and stuff. Okay, this really sucks. This is not what I wanted to do right now. Is this one open too? No. Okay, now that I got that situated, the capacitors we're looking for aren't even in those books. We can open this up and also not lose this capacitor. I do need to actually look up the values again. C16 is 220 and 10 volts. Okay, so open this up. We've got our handy dandy sheet here, and this is the layout of all of these. We can go at a higher voltage, but we want to keep it at the right capacitance. So I see a 220 here for 25 volts. That will work, but the size is too big because it's just too tall. So I'm going to look for another 220. 220 10 volt. It's going to be third from the bottom. This might still be too tall, but this is what we want. We have a 35 volt, that's just even bigger. A 220 16 volt, which is probably going to be just as big as the 10 volt. So we'll just try the 10 volt, see what happens here. It's just a slight bit taller, and that's just not very good, but maybe it'll work. See, and we measure it, and it's only at 189. Like, there we go, 190. It's going up as we hold it. So I don't know. It's really not that much different. So we'll see if this even does anything. If not, I genuinely have no idea what's wrong. I mean, it's very possible that I just completely fried the board, but I don't think that I did. I don't think I did anything wrong here. I have a feeling that capacitor is going to be too tall, even if this does work. But here goes nothing. I haven't even turned it on, and it shows up like something's on AV. I just don't have hope for it. Yep, sounds about right. It makes noises like it's doing something, but literally nothing but a black screen. For fun here, I'll just remove the HDMI ribbon cable, even though I'm 99% sure I've removed this fully and tried it still. Completely removed, nothing. Yep, even like just looking over this board, making sure I didn't short anything, nothing. It's all good. I genuinely have no clue what the problem is here. This is really crappy. So if you have any ideas as to what's going on here, it turns on, you see the power light. I can hear some sort of like whine going on when I actually turn it on. Right now, it's not giving me a no signal thing, but even with this completely off, still doesn't say no signal. I am genuinely out of ideas. So if you have any, please leave them in the comments down below. Otherwise, this was supposed to be a video where I show off using this thing, and I did, but now I'm like, did I even use this correctly? I have no idea because I didn't solve the problem. But maybe it was because I was looking in the wrong spot. I don't know.